Welcome back. Okay, let's dive into the enterprise risk management activities. This is where the real meat in the model resides. Enterprise risk management consists of 8 interrelated components, as you can see across the front face of the COSO cube. For the remainder of this course, we will spend a few minutes discussing each of these. First up, we have the internal environment, which is commonly referred to as the tone at the top. Do you know how many frameworks begin with this notion of tone at the top? Well, we have the internal control framework, the fraud control framework, ethics frameworks, general computer control frameworks. And there's good reason, because if you look at some of the largest corporate failures and frauds, how many of these can be traced back to a poor tone at the top? You know, we have Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, Washington Mutual are all examples of when boards and senior executives took oversized risks and manufactured ridiculously complex financial instruments that made little sense in hindsight. You know, Enron, WorldCom, Nortel, Bernie Madoff, these are all examples of frauds that were allowed to happen because of the flaws in the internal environment. The bottom line is that if the tone at the top is cracked, the rest doesn't matter. But in my mind, the challenge is effectively assessing the tone at the top. And this is not easy to do, especially if you hand this activity off to an inexperienced manager. The most common procedure is to work your way through a 60-page questionnaire with the senior executive team. I'm willing to bet that this is not the most effective way of evaluating the internal environment. So let's look at the elements of the internal environment to get a better understanding. So first we have the risk management philosophy. And these are the beliefs and attitudes about risks taken in conducting business. Now, having worked myself in both the utility industry and the entrepreneurial sector, I've seen both sides of risk philosophy. You know, utilities are very regimented with their risk management philosophy, and it's well documented with all sorts of policies and risk committees. In the private world, this sort of stuff is informal at best, and there's a lot of decisions that still get made from the gut. Now, similar to the risk management philosophy is the concept of risk appetite. This is the amount of risk that an entity is willing to accept. Now, utilities only invest in new power lines or power plants when they are sure that they can recover these costs through the rates they charge their customers. Entrepreneurs see opportunities and may be willing to take more risk by pulling the trigger to proceed before they've entirely figured out the business model. Thirdly, we have the board of directors. These are the folks that provide an oversight role for the entity. And to be effective, they need to challenge management, second-guess the executives to test the strategies that they put forward. And to do so effectively means that they themselves must have competency in the field. Rubber stamp boards were all too common and unfortunately still exist in many entities. Fourthly, we need to consider the integrity and ethical values. Nothing says tone at the top more than studying the behaviors of those in charge. Consider how the organization sets its standards of behavior, and more importantly, what does the organization do when someone violates those standards? Fifthly, we have a commitment to competence. That is, does the organization have the knowledge and the skills required to fulfill the assigned responsibilities? On paper, two organizations can have exactly the same complement of staff with exactly the same skills and experience. However, their productivity and effectiveness can be vastly different depending on how well its managers are leading, motivating, and managing staff, which is an element of the internal environment. Sixth, we need to consider the organizational structure. Organizational structure has a pervasive impact on the internal environment. Simply consider the impact of a centralized versus a decentralized structure. One structure empowers, the other standardizes. There is no right answer as to which one is best, but in certain circumstances, one may work better than the other. Seventh, we have the assignment of authority and responsibility. Similar to organizational structure, this is the degree to which decision-making empowerment is distributed through the organization. A little empowerment can be a wonderful thing if you've got the right people and the right context. Otherwise, it can lead to disaster in the internal environment and undermine the whole risk management framework. And finally, we need to consider the human resource standards. And these are the human resource management practices adopted by the entity. Organizations are run by people, not pretty pieces of paper with elaborate policies or state-of-the-art systems. People. And that's what makes the internal environment so hard to establish and evaluate. So there you have it. The 8 elements of the internal environment to consider before you ever start worrying about identifying or managing risk. So until next time, don't stop till you get to the top. When you get to the top, don't stop.